Hello Craft, this is Thomas with the WoW Dungeon, and in this video it's going to be a two-part series video on Ret Paladins and how to kite them. In this first portion of the video I'm going to be going over all of the specific abilities that you need to know as a hunter versus a Ret, and then in the second part of the series I'm going to be showing duels, showing what I talk about in this video in practice. Alright, to start off on how Rets do damage. This is important to understand because Rets do a stupid amount of damage. So I have to go over it so that way you can recognize when a Ret's really going to go in hard. When a Ret's going in hard, he pops these two spells. They're two cooldowns, both on a 2-minute cooldown. The first one's Avenging Wrath, and the other one's Holy Avenger. Avenging Wrath increases all damage and healing caused by 20% for 20 seconds. Holy Avenger, abilities that generate holy power will deal 30% additional damage and healing, and generate 3 charges of holy power for the next 18 seconds. So you can see why they stack them. This is the period of time where they do a tremendous amount of damage. In fact, you can see in this clip right here, I'm getting burst down by a Retribution Paladin through Roar of Sacrifice. So with this being in mind, it's obvious that when they pop these two cooldowns, simply popping Roar of Sacrifice isn't going to save you from sitting a stun and surviving a Ret burst alone. If he hits you in a stun and he's got that on you, you're dead. The best thing to do when this guy has popped all of these cooldowns is to prevent that damage any way you can. And I'll be going over how to do that later. Another thing about Ret damage is that they can also cleave. As you can see, Divine Storm deals 65% holy damage to all enemies within 8 yards. If they have a lot of people within a range, they will start doing that, and they can do a ton of damage to some of the other people that aren't even their direct targets. So be aware for that. Alright, Rets don't have that much utility, but they have some strong utility. Let's go over the first one. Rets have one stun, and that is Hammer of Justice. Most Retribution Paladins will spec into Fist of Justice, which does the exact same thing, except it reduces the cooldown by 30 seconds. So every 30 seconds, anticipate that you will be getting stunned by a Ret Paladin. Another ability that they have that you'll see them use often is called Hand of Freedom. This places a hand on the friendly target, granting immunity to movement impairing effects for 6 seconds. Players may only have one hand on them per Paladin at a time. So they can cast Freedom, and they can remove any slows that you might have put on them, or nets or snares. This is on a 25-second cooldown, and you can trank shot it off. So it is trank shottable. Another one is Hand of Sacrifice. What Hand of Sacrifice does is it instantly removes all harmful magic effects from the target and transfers 30% of damage taken to the Paladin for 12 seconds or until the Paladin has transferred 100% of the maximum health. Pretty much this is a buyout for other team members. You're not going to see a Paladin use this much when you're dueling him, mostly because he uses it on his party members to get them out of CC. So if you trap, let's say, a priest that's on the same side as a Retribution Paladin, he'll be able to cast Hand of Sacrifice on him to remove him out of the trap. Another thing to note is Hand of Sacrifice is trank shottable, so you can take that off and get rid of the sack. One more thing to note is that most Paladins will be speccing into Clemency. Clemency gives all hand abilities 2 charges. So while you may have thought Hand of Freedom was bad, along with Hand of Sacrifice, they have 2 charges of each one, so you will be seeing them be able to cast it twice before their cooldowns are up. So keep that in mind. One last thing, they'll usually be running a glyph called Glyph of Burden of Guilt, and that says your judgment hits fill your target with doubt and remorse, reducing movement speed by 50% for 2 seconds. They'll pretty much be throwing judgments on you whenever they can. Right, and finally, the Paladin's defensives. Paladins don't have that great of a defense. Everybody knows of Paladin's Bubble. It's called Divine Shield, aka the Paladin's Bubble. This will protect you from all damage and spells for 8 seconds, but reduces all damage dealt by 50%. So when the Paladin's in this bubble, he is immune to damage for 8 seconds. However, he is dealing 50% less damage. That does mean he can still hit you. It cannot be used on targets with forbearance, and forbearance is given by the Divine Shield. Another defensive that the Retribution Paladin has is called Hand of Protection, which is also trank-shottable. Places a hand on a party or raid member, protecting them from all physical attacks for 10 seconds, but during that time they cannot attack or use physical abilities. They also have Divine Protection, which reduces magical damage taken by 40% for 8 seconds, which is not trank-shottable. This will impact the damage from your Chimera shot, so just be aware when they pop this, because you don't want to waste the Chimera into it, especially halfway into the Divine Protection, then have your Chimera on cooldown. Another thing too is that most paladins will spec into a Selfless Healer, and it says your successful judgments reduce the cast time and mana cost of your next flash of light by 35%. So when they're slowing you down, they'll get this debuff, and you can trank shot it as well. So this is trank shottable, and it'll kind of get rid of some of their healing potency. Now again, a reminder of how insane the damage is from a Retribution Paladin. I showed how it can go through sack and still kill a hunter. With Holy Avenger and Avenging Wrath both popped at the same time, you can see what makes the damage so nasty. On top of that, they get Righteous Determination with their 2-piece set bonus from their PvP gear, and that says when you cast Avenging Wrath, the duration of all incoming crowd control effects cast on yourself is reduced by 50% for 15 seconds. That means every single CC that you throw at them while Righteous Determination is up is cut in half. So if they were put in a polymorph, they'd only go down to a 4-second polymorph instead of an 8. So that also makes the fact that with their damage being on a 2-minute cooldown, outside of those cooldowns, their damage isn't that effective. It's not so scary and can be healed through or played around because it's not scary enough to do anything else. So what this means is that the Achilles heel of a paladin is to CC him or stop him during his cooldowns in order to prevent him from doing so much damage that you just can't catch up. Well, Righteous Determination is trank-shottable. You can dispel it, put the paladin into a freezing trap, or one of your party members can put them into a CC of some sort and have him waste his cooldown. If the Ret Paladin wastes his cooldown, you make him ineffective. That's how you play against a Ret Paladin. So that's the overview of all of the Retribution Paladin's abilities that come into play when versing a hunter. So now that I've gone over that, it is time to go into the duels. So at the end of this video, I'll be linking the duel section of this guide, and hopefully you've learned a lot more about the Retribution Paladin class. If you have any comments or any improvements that I could make in delivering this type of video to you, please put them in so I can further improve my presentation style. Alright, I'll see you in the next video.